We welcome in Sportsnet's Arash Madani on the holiday season, and we say, welcome. Happy holidays, Arash. How are you?
Happy holidays, Darren. I'm well. I got Paraguay to win the World Juniors. How about you?
How about that?
All right. That's off the board. I like it. It's good.
I'll be
Look, we just had Justin on here. And yeah. Well, so Justin and I have been traveling quite a bit, and he raves and he tells me tales of the epic tennis matches that you two have throughout the year. But he also tells me that he can never beat you. Is this true?
Right. Well, I'm glad Dunk said so. That's the first honest thing I've heard from his mouth in about 5 years. You know what's great?
I know, right?
Darren,
so, yeah.
Is a former Guelph quarterback having to call Western win the Vanier Cup, win a national championship. That actually gave me some joy. I have to tell you.
I know, and I wonder what he's going through when he's calling that game, because every fiber in his being is wanting Saskatchewan to win that game, probably, right? And anybody but Western, right? Isn't that the saying?
Yeah. So that's his. Although he also had a few other sayings about Western in his playing days. So
we know.
Where are you?
Know. So before we
high school,
I am okay.
Where are you?
Yes. So I'm back home. So Rod's. I mean, we had Dave Poulin on in hour one, and he's like, "Rod's on vacation from what? I thought he's been on vacation for the last 2 months. Down in Florida, which is kind of true. But Rod's taking he's on the Christmas break now. So I'm back home. And I needed a place. Mom and Dad's place did not have nearly good enough Wi-Fi, not even remotely possible to do the show from. So the high school, I'm in my high school in Wynyard.
Nice. Now, are you a member of any of those banners that are hanging? Are you responsible for any of those banners hanging up there or no?
There's a difference between member and responsible. Yeah, there's a 9-man high school football provincial championship that I think my name's on one of those. There's a couple of things around here. I'll show some of that tomorrow. We found my grad photo yesterday, so that was fun.
Ooh, very nice.
But yeah, so it is. It's nostalgic and it's fun to come home. But as we sit here today into the holidays, there's a few things still happening. Obviously, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the CFL, a little bit about the NFL and your Vikings. But just because you mentioned it, and I saw it pop up when I was up earlier today, baseball popped up on your radar, and it got me thinking, oh yeah, they're in a lockout in baseball. And it had totally left my register. I had totally forgotten that baseball was in this, and maybe that's a little bit about where baseball is in the public conscious right now. But where is baseball in all of this right now? How much trouble are they in?
Well, they're nowhere right now. They're not on the consciousness of anybody, of any sports fan. They're not talking. They're not at the table right now, the players and owners. They remain locked out. The reason why I even brought it up is to give some credit to Rob Longley of Post Media, who went down to the Tampa area, Clearwater area, not far from Dunedin, and the Blue Jays' brand new $100 million training complex that's gathering cobwebs right now because the players are literally locked out from there for their off-season preparation. So nothing is happening with baseball right now, which if you're a fan of the Blue Jays or looking at it through the lens of the Toronto Blue Jays, is brutal because they're coming off a season where they were on the precipice of the postseason, knocking on the door of October, a young core with Vlad and Bo and Manoah, and they re-up Barrios and they bring in Gosman, and now just flat. So this is vintage baseball. They cannot get out of their own way, and they are so short-sighted with what they're doing with this labor situation at a time where you want to be out in front. They're doing the opposite of, and it's self-inflicted.
You're so involved in the game, and you follow it so closely. And I talk about this in sports with the CFL. What we don't realize, and you see it, the borders are almost gone now. Canada, US. I mean, it is a thing politically and obviously with travel and stuff. But I mean, we watch the same things on TV. We eat the same foods. We go to the same places. We have the same stores. And we consume all the same content now. It used to be when I grew up that I watched CFL games because I needed a pirated dish of some kind that seemed like a mythical thing that only two people in North America had to actually access NFL games. All that was available was CFL games. All that was on, in the newspaper was the CFL. It was right in front of my face. Now it's so much easier to find the NFL. The games are more readily available. We're competing every day with all of North America. It's just as cheap and affordable for me to go to Vegas, to go to a Raiders game and stay in a hotel as it is for me to fly to Winnipeg and go to a Blue Bomber, Rider game or a Blue Bomber Stampeders game. So we're competing all the time. Where does baseball fit into all this? Because we talk about the traditions of baseball and that the game is so pure, right?
Well, I guess. I would say this, that baseball's in a big challenging position because the game is slow. The game takes a long time. For a generation now that has a lower attention span, it doesn't compute. And there's talk always, Darren, about wanting to change and wanting to make moves that can speed up the pace of the game, etc. But actually executing on evolving has been a major problem. Look, baseball's in huge trouble long term because it's like it feels like it's a lost generation and a half right now. And it wasn't that long ago. If you go back 2 generations, what were the 3 biggest sports in the United States? Was horse racing, boxing, and baseball. Well, look where the other 2 have gone. And unless something is done and quick and drastic, why wouldn't baseball fall down that road? But you make an interesting point, about the phone and everything else. I mean, Darren, Clark, let's go back to that shot of the gym. Like, see all those banners back there? When Darren and I were growing up, we were force-fed stuff on TV, and whatever was on, that was the only thing that we could consume. So we became sports fans because that was just what was on. But now, people who are high school aged have so many different things that they can spend their time on. And there are fewer and fewer young people consuming sports in general. And leagues are not evolving. Pro sports are not evolving to try and attract them. They're doing the exact same, many of the same things that they've been doing for generations prior. You are now competing against YouTube and video games, and for our generation with concerts and theater and patios and everything else. And so it's when I talk to people at the Jays sometimes, or talk to people at the Leafs, they're saying, I remember in 2019 the Jays saying, well, the Raptors run really hurt us at the box office. And I'm like, man, patios and outdoors and you're trying to get people's disposable time and money. And it's not just the team down the street you're competing with. You're competing, especially with the youth, with everything else that's at their fingertips that wasn't there a generation or 2 ago.
It's unbelievable. I could have this conversation for an hour, and it's really worth an in-depth look because a lot of people managing leagues and teams, they're not realizing that, and they market to themselves, right? I mean, we market to what we think we need. We don't market to what our audience needs, and it's a young generation that has so many opportunities and options. Jeez. And we're almost out of time here. I didn't really think we'd talk baseball in this the whole time, but it's been really great. But the last thing I want to ask you is about your Vikings because I'm following it closely, and I mean, as of today, they're a playoff team, Arash. They're in a wild card spot, so that feels pretty good. But how good does it feel? Are they going to get in?
Yeah, I don't know. They're 7-7. The Rams, the team from the state that we don't mention by name after that, and then Chicago. Before I came on, I was actually listening to Mike Zimmer's media availability today, and the last question was somebody asked him, you and Matt Nagy on the hot seat, and Zimmer's like, I'm on the hot seat. He didn't want to talk about it. It just feels like the Vikings for the last 2-3 years have been on the long road to nowhere, and the bottom's about to fall out. So that's the sense I get. Whether they get in with an expanded playoffs and they're a one and done, or maybe they fluke their way into a wild card win at best case scenario. But this team has just done nothing for a while now. So whether they get in or whether they don't, I don't really think it's going to impact what the end game is with what's happening in Minnesota.
It's the most frustrating place to be. Trust me, as a Titans fan. I mean, our team name should be 9-7. It is, you're always not good enough to get to the top, not bad enough to be at the bottom. You're always in the middle, and that's a frustrating place for a sports fan.
Yeah, I mean, in the micro, I was watching the game on Sunday in the fourth quarter. I'm like, what do you mean you took 10 offensive snaps and committed turnovers on 3 of them against Pittsburgh? The 10,000-foot view is like, well, this team should be in the AFC Championship game. Derrick Henry is vital to what you do, but they feel lost right now. Can they figure it out? Sure. Indianapolis seems to have figured it out without a quarterback. But outside of KC right now, I don't know what team I'm buying in the AFC. So be healthy, get hot. Who knows what happens in January?
I know. Justin Herbert's and the Chargers are a team I like. I don't know if I trust them. It'll be fun to follow, Arash. We're out of time. I appreciate this. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year.
You got it. Thanks, Darren. You too. And you and everybody else out there also.
You betcha. Arash Madani joining us from Sportsnet. Great chat as always.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of The Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.